This one is hard. In fact, transition questions tend to be some of the hardest ones in the writing section, mostly because we're forced to choose between words that we very rarely use ourselves. So it's understandable why we'd have trouble. The key is to kind of use dumb summaries to better summarize what we're reading and what these words mean. So let's take a look at the lines that we're drawn to first. So with transition questions, we always want to read the sentence that contains the transition and the sentence that comes before it, because we're trying to compare those ideas. We're trying to see the relationship between those ideas, and that's why these are kind of weird. These are the only ideas questions in my mind that don't actually have a literal question. It looks more like a grammar or a style question, but it's actually testing the ideas. So that's why dumb summaries can help us here. So let's look at the first sentence. The research demonstrated a clear correlation between introducing phosphates and the growth of blue-green algae. So strip away as much of that sentence as you can. There's a correlation between phosphates and algae. That's the sentence. Next, I skip the transition word. I don't want to bias myself by reading what's already there. I want to kind of go in fresh when I look at the choices. I'm going to go right to here. Legislators in Canada passed laws banning phosphates in laundry detergents, which have been entering the water supply. So this is also about phosphates. You might try to make these positive and negative and see what that relationship is. I think it's hard to do here. In my mind, they're both negative. And I think you can have a different opinion here. I think it's just a matter of understanding that they're similar. So there's a correlation between phosphates and algae. Remember from earlier in the passage, phosphates are bad, algae is bad, so this is a bad thing that they found from the experiment. So they pass these laws to ban the phosphates because they want to get rid of this bad thing. So it's more about the bad thing than it is about the good thing of passing the law. Again, you can have a different opinion, but I think you're probably on the same page as me in terms of how these two sentences relate. And that's a problem for a choice like C, however, is a word that we use to move from positive to negative or negative to positive. It's a contrast word. So that does not fit with this situation. These are not opposing ideas. They're related to each other. So that gets rid of choice C. Hopefully you also know what for example means. Is the second sentence an example of the first? No, they're not talking about the same thing, right? So the first sentence is talking about the experiment's results. The second is talking about what this legislature did to respond to those results. That's not an example of the results. So take A literally. It doesn't provide an example. Now it's a little tricky, because I keep using the word similar to describe the relationship between these two sentences. They are similar. They're saying similar things in the sense that they're both kind of like about the same thing. That phosphates are bad, algae is bad, we got to get rid of them. But similarly is a word that we use when we're literally trying to make a comparison, saying that two different situations are actually the same. That is not what's happening here. We are not saying that the Canadian legislature is similar to Lake 226 or whatever. We're not making an analogy. So similarly does not work here, but I know why people would want to pick it. It's because you don't really feel comfortable using the word subsequently. I doubt you use that in your everyday life. And so it feels good sometimes to pick the more familiar option because you know what it means. You don't like picking something that's unknown, but we have to do that on the SAT pretty often. And subsequently is the right word here because it means that like two things happened in order. So first, they learned about this experiment. First, this experiment happened and it told us that phosphates are bad. Subsequently, or next, because of that, the Canadian legislature passed laws banning phosphates. So the first thing caused the second thing to happen. The first thing happened, then the second thing happened. So it fits because we're trying to convey some sort of timing between these two sentences. But this is very difficult, and this is why process of elimination can help you here. I don't think when I read these two sentences, I have a gut feeling about what the right transition would be. even if I came up with a more simple version of these words, I just don't see the relationship until I've gone through the choices and thought about what each of these words means. That's okay. That has to happen with transition questions a lot. So just take the time. They're gettable. And the more you practice, the more comfortable you'll be with each of these words. They are hard, but they are gettable.